The wind tore through the mountains like a living thing, cold and merciless. Snow swirled around me in sheets, blinding, battering, forcing me to squint even as I tried to make out the road ahead. My car had broken down hours ago, leaving me stranded in the middle of nowhere. The dim light from my headlights barely reached past the frost that clung to the trees, turning the forest into a world of silhouettes, black and white and endless. Every crunch of snow under my boots made me jump. Something about the silence felt unnatural. And then I saw it. A train lying across the tracks as if it had been waiting for me my entire life. Its steel glimmered faintly in the dark, though I couldn't see any light source. The strange thing was, it wasn't scheduled. There was no station, no timetable, no glowing platform or sign to indicate that a train could stop here. I froze. My rational mind screamed at me to run, to turn back, to get as far away from this place as possible. But my curiosity, that deep, gnawing thing that humans aren't supposed to ignore, wouldn't let me. The train doors slid open with a whisper, a movement almost so subtle I might have imagined it. And yet, the cold wind that rushed out carried with it a sound, soft, distant voices that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, whispers. I could not understand the words, but they struck me to the core. Come or never leave. The message was clear, though my mind struggled to comprehend how a train could speak, how it could command my body to move forward. I stepped toward it, and the moment my boots touched the snow-covered platform, the air changed. The snow stopped falling, and a silence descended, a hollow, suffocating quiet that pressed down on my chest. My breath came in sharp, visible bursts, but the cold didn't bite like it should. It was something else, something heavier, like the world itself had tilted, suspended between two realities. Inside, the train smelled of old wood and wet iron, like a basement locked away for decades. The aisle stretched endlessly before me, lined with empty seats that gleamed dully under the faint, flickering lights above. Every step echoed, but somehow the sound didn't dissipate. It lingered, looping back at me. I felt watched. Not just observed, watched. I tried to shake off the fear. It's just a train, I told myself. It's old, abandoned. Maybe someone is messing with me. Yet even as I spoke, the shadows along the walls seemed to move independently. They stretched unnaturally, slithering along the seats, the floor, the ceiling. And then I saw the first shadow, a shape that wasn't attached to a body, drifting along the aisle. My heart hammered. I wanted to run, but my legs felt heavy, as though the train itself resisted my motion. The train jolted, not along tracks, but as if it had become alive. The wooden floor under my boots vibrated in a way that made my teeth rattle. Outside the windows, the snow, the mountains, the dark forest, all disappeared. There was nothing now but gray fog, stretching endlessly in all directions. My stomach lurched as I realized I had left reality behind. I wasn't just on a train, I was somewhere else entirely. A whisper came, soft as silk, but cutting sharper than glass. You belong here now. I spun around, searching for its source, but there was no one. The seats remained empty, the lights flickered. And then, at the far end of the aisle, the shadow shifted again. This time, it took a step toward me. I froze. My rational mind screamed, "It's just a trick of the light, just a shadow!" But my gut knew the truth. It wasn't a shadow. It was something else, something ancient and patient and hungry. My own reflection appeared in the window next to me, but it wasn't right. My eyes looked older, fearful, and my mouth opened silently, screaming at me to leave. A sudden chill swept through the train. The doors at the far end slammed shut with a sound that reverberated through the entire carriage. The lights flickered violently, then went out completely, plunging me into blackness. The whisper came again, closer this time. "Do not run. You cannot leave." I stumbled backward, hands outstretched, and collided with the seat in front of me. The shadow loomed, stretching impossibly, bending the space around it. I tried to turn to find another door, but there was none. The aisle stretched infinitely in both directions. Every step I took brought no progress. Panic clawed at me. My pulse thundered in my ears. I realized I was trapped. And then something even worse happened. A figure appeared in the window across from me. A man, or what I thought was a man, staring back at me. He had the same face, the same features, and yet there was something wrong. His eyes were hollow, empty, and yet they glimmered with an intent that was all too human. He smiled. He whispered, "Welcome." The train jolted again. A deep, resonant sound rolled through the carriage. The walls seemed to pulse, breathing in time with my own heartbeat. My rational mind screamed at me to run. My legs refused to obey. My mind knew I was already too far gone. The shadow moved again, and I realized, with a shiver that cut to my bones, that it wasn't just watching me, it was leading me somewhere I wasn't ready to go. The train started moving, slowly at first, then faster. The station, the snow, the mountains, they were gone. All that remained was the endless gray mist. And somewhere in that mist, I heard the faintest echo of a train whistle. Not from this train, not from the world I knew, but from somewhere far older, far darker. A warning? Or a promise? I had no choice now but to follow. The train hurtled through the gray mist like a living thing, vibrating under my feet with a steady, relentless rhythm. Every second stretched into eternity. Every heartbeat echoed in the emptiness around me. I had no idea how far I had traveled or even if I was moving forward at all. The shadows along the aisle seemed to dance with me, twisting unnaturally, as if they had lives of their own. My pulse pounded in my ears. I could feel them observing me, learning me, testing me. And then I saw the faces. At first, I thought it was a trick of the flickering lights, shapes pressed against the windows, hollow, pale, their mouths moving without sound, eyes staring into nothing, yet somehow seeing me. My stomach dropped when I recognized one of them, my childhood friend who had vanished years ago after that hiking trip, and there, pressed against the glass, was my great uncle, dead for over a decade. I blinked and they were still there, unchanged, frozen in time, yet painfully alive. I stumbled backward, tripping over my own feet. My hands clawed at the empty aisle, searching for something familiar, anything familiar. The train wasn't just a train anymore. It was a corridor of lost souls, a vessel carrying fragments of lives that had been forgotten, erased, or prematurely ended. A voice whispered behind me, soft and urgent, almost pleading, "You should never have come here." I spun around, trying to find the source, but the aisle was empty. The seats were vacant, yet the air felt heavier, oppressive, pressing in on me from all directions. My reflection in the window flickered, and I froze. It wasn't my reflection. It was me, but older, gaunt, eyes wide with terror, and a mouth frozen in a silent scream. I wanted to turn away, to escape, but my body refused to obey. The figure in the glass reached out toward me, and a cold hand seemed to brush against my own. The train jolted suddenly, violently, throwing me against the seat. The walls groaned and warped, stretching and bending as if the carriage was alive. The air grew thick, tasting metallic, like blood mixed with rust. My vision blurred, and when it cleared, the windows revealed landscapes that should have been impossible. Forests floating in the sky, rivers twirling into themselves, buildings twisting like paper under invisible hands. I stumbled down the aisle, each step echoing unnaturally, until I reached a closed door at the far end of the train. It creaked open slowly, revealing a room bathed in an unnatural light.
Inside, a child sat on the floor playing with a miniature train set. The toy train moved on its own, looping endlessly, crossing bridges and disappearing into tunnels that led nowhere. The child turned to look at me. His eyes were hollow, black pools reflecting nothing, yet showing everything. My breath caught. I felt a pull deep in my chest, like my heart itself was being tugged by invisible strings. I wanted to run. I tried. My legs shook, but I couldn't move. The child smiled, a slow, knowing smile, and whispered in a voice I somehow understood, "You belong to us now." Panic surged through me. I backed away, nearly tripping again. The door slammed shut behind me with a deafening crack. The lights flickered and went out, plunging the door into complete darkness. I was breathing heavily.
Suddenly, the train lurched violently, throwing me to the floor. I scrambled to my feet, my hands sliding along the warped seats. I glanced toward the windows, and my stomach dropped. Outside, the landscapes were impossible. Mountains stretched infinitely into the sky. Rivers curled back into themselves. Cities burned slowly yet silently, and the sky above was a deep, impossible red. I wanted to scream, to run, to escape, but my legs wouldn't obey. The conductor reached the compartment door. His presence warped the space itself, bending the light and shadows like a living fog. He extended a hand toward me. "Follow," he said, not a command, but an inevitability. There is nothing outside the train. There is no outside, only the journey. I had no choice. I followed, each step heavy, my mind teetering between disbelief and terror. The carriage stretched endlessly before me, folding and twisting, the shadows from the past and present merging into shapes that danced and writhed, their faces familiar, haunting, accusing. And then I heard it. A whistle, high-pitched, piercing, impossibly loud. Not from the train, not from any engine. It echoed in my mind, reverberating through the gray mist outside, through my very bones. And then a realization so cold it froze my blood. The train wasn't just alive. It was aware. It was watching me, learning me, shaping the corridors, the doors, the shadows, to see what I would do next. I tried to run again, but the corridor stretched endlessly. Every door I opened led to another impossibility. Time had no meaning here. Memory had no meaning here. The train was everything, and I was already part of it. At the end of the aisle, the blurred conductor waited, calm, patient, smiling, hollow eyes fixed on me. His voice resonated once more, echoing endlessly. "Some boards cannot leave, some paths never end, and you have arrived at your first choice." I froze. My pulse thundered. The train shuddered beneath me like a beast awakening. And then I saw it. Another reflection, not mine. Older, knowing, terrifyingly patient, staring back from the window across from me. I realized, in that moment, that whatever lay ahead, there was no turning back. The corridor stretched endlessly, folding into itself like a mirror that refused to reflect reality. Every step I took felt heavier, as if the train itself was weighing me down, slowing me, testing me. The shadows along the aisle twisted and writhed, growing darker, merging into shapes I could barely recognize. My pulse raced, sweat prickling at my temples despite the icy air. Ahead, a compartment door creaked open, revealing a small, dimly lit room. Luggage was scattered across the floor, but one bag sat upright, unclaimed, its zipper partially open. Something inside caught my eye. I moved closer, heart hammering. It was a photograph of me, taken 5 years ago, standing somewhere I had never been. The angle, the expression, even the faint background, it was unfamiliar. My hands trembled as I picked it up. How could this exist here, on a train that should not exist? How could it know me so intimately? A sound behind me made me spin. The aisle was empty, but the air itself seemed to pulse with intent. Then I saw him, a man sitting silently at the far end of the room, pale, still, his eyes hollow but unnervingly aware. He smiled faintly, as if expecting me. "You were meant to board long ago, but time had other plans. Now, it's too late." I swallowed hard. My breath came in ragged bursts. "Who are you?" I demanded, though my voice sounded weak, swallowed by the walls themselves. He didn't answer. Instead, he faded, leaving only the scent of cold metal and wet earth. The train jolted violently, and I stumbled back, nearly hitting the wall. The room seemed to stretch around me, expanding and contracting in impossible rhythms. Then, the intercom crackled. A distorted voice, warped and layered, filled the compartment. "Only those who accept the ride survive. The rest become part of the tracks." My stomach churned. The implication was clear. I was being tested, judged by forces beyond comprehension. The train wasn't just a vessel, it was a predator. I ran down the aisle, doors opening into voids that led nowhere. Each compartment revealed glimpses of lives that weren't mine, yet felt intimately familiar. Children laughing in rooms I had never visited, streets from my hometown frozen mid-step, strangers looking at me with recognition, though I had never met them. I glanced back. The man from before had returned, standing at the end of the aisle. His eyes glimmered faintly in the dim light. "Some passengers never leave," he whispered, and the words wrapped around me like chains. The train lurched again. The walls of the corridor seemed to ripple, and I stumbled into another compartment. Inside, I saw a mirror. My reflection stared back, but it was not mine. Older, gaunt, eyes filled with terror, mouth open in a silent scream. My own future, warning me. A whisper brushed my ear. "The train remembers everything. Your regrets, your fears, your failures. All are collected here." The photograph in my hand felt suddenly heavy, as if infused with unseen weight. I dropped it, and it floated to the center of the compartment, suspended in midair. It spun slowly, revealing other images, fragments of my life I had forgotten, moments I had missed, choices I had never made. I wanted to scream, but no sound came. The train was consuming me, wrapping its corridors, its shadows, its passengers around my mind. The realization hit me like ice. There was no escape. The lost passengers, the shadows, the conductor, they were all part of a system, a machine that fed on souls caught between reality and impossibility. The lights flickered one last time before plunging the room into darkness. And then I heard it, the softest whisper, yet carrying more weight than anything I had ever heard. "Next stop, eternity." The train's movement had become unpredictable. It no longer followed tracks or obeyed any sense of time. Each jolt tossed me against walls that seemed to ripple like liquid metal. Outside, the fog had lifted, but in its place were impossible landscapes that made my mind reel. Mountains floated mid-air, rivers bent upon themselves, cities twisted upside down. People ran in frozen motion, faces contorted in silent screams. It was neither day nor night, only a pale gray light that seemed to come from nowhere. I stumbled down the aisle, every step echoing endlessly. The shadows followed, now more distinct, figures from my past, my present, and fragments of possible futures. A face I recognized, my father, appeared behind a window, but his mouth moved unnaturally, forming words I couldn't hear. Yet I understood. Every choice, every regret, every mistake I had ever made was being replayed, scrutinized, judged. I pressed my hands to the cold window. My reflection screamed silently. I realized the truth. The train was alive, not just alive. It was conscious, aware, feeding on lost moments, unfinished lives, and regrets. Every corridor, every compartment, every shadow was shaped to ensnare me, and it wanted me. A door opened ahead. Inside, I saw myself, not as I was now, but older, hollow-eyed, broken. He, or was it I, turned slowly, gaze fixed on me. "You can't leave," he whispered, voice layered with fear and resignation. I stumbled backward, heart hammering. The aisle ahead seemed to stretch into infinity, folding on itself, creating impossible angles. Each time I tried to run forward, I ended up in the same place. The train wasn't just moving through space, it was moving through time, memories, possibilities. Suddenly, the conductor appeared at the far end, his uniform crisp, his face blurred, but his eyes, those hollow eyes, seemed to see everything inside me. Every world, every possibility is part of the journey, and now your choice will define it. I wanted to ask what he meant, but no words came. My mind was flooded with visions of streets from my childhood, scenes I hadn't yet lived, moments I thought I had forgotten. Whispers from every direction merged into one deafening chorus. I could feel the train breathing around me, pulsing with a hunger I could not resist. I turned another corner. A door opened into nothing but blackness. I hesitated. Then I saw it. Light, soft and golden, at the far edge of the void. A promise? Or another trap? The train's corridor seemed to pulse, bending the light toward me, urging me forward, beckoning. I stepped through. The moment I did, the air changed. The impossible landscapes vanished, replaced by a frozen street from my past. People moved, but slowly, unnaturally, like they were caught in some distorted loop.
I realized then, with a cold shiver, that the train wasn't just a vessel. It was a mirror. Every choice I had made, every moment I had ignored or forgotten, every path I had never taken was now being reflected back at me. And it wanted me to see them, to accept them, or to be consumed by them. The lights flickered one final time as the aisle stretched endlessly before me. I understood the terrible truth. There was no outside, no escape. The train moved through worlds, through time, through memory itself, and I was trapped in its rhythm, caught between the impossible and the inevitable. Somewhere, deep in the distance, a whistle blew. High, piercing, impossibly loud. Not from an engine, not from this reality, but from the train itself, a signal that it had chosen me. And as I stumbled forward, heart hammering, I realized I had no choice but to keep moving. The aisle stretched endlessly before me, warped and bending like liquid glass. My legs were heavy, my lungs burned, and my mind reeled from the impossible visions the train had shown me. Faces from my past, future echoes, and shadows of moments I hadn't yet lived crowded every window, every mirror, every dark corner. The train pulsed beneath me, alive, aware, demanding. And then I saw him, the conductor, standing calmly at the far end of the corridor, blurred as ever, eyes glowing faintly. He did not move, yet somehow his presence filled the entire carriage. "The choice is yours," he said, voice low, resonant, echoing in my skull. "Leave or stay. Every choice has a price." I wanted to scream, to run, to throw myself from the train, though I didn't know if that would even work. But the moment I tried to step forward, the aisle shifted, doors disappeared, walls stretched, and the floor seemed to ripple beneath my feet. The train wasn't a train, it was a labyrinth, alive, aware, testing me. I reached a compartment. The door opened into a room bathed in dim golden light. Inside, my future self sat in a chair, hollow-eyed, gaunt, trembling, yet calm. He whispered, "This place, it reflects everything, every regret, every fear, every choice you have yet to make, and now it's your turn." I backed away, heart hammering, mind spinning. What choice?" I demanded. He gestured to a door at the far end of the room, shimmering like molten silver. Through that door, freedom, maybe. Or something worse. Behind you, the train will continue. It will remember everything you feared, every regret, every path you avoided. It will consume all that you are if you hesitate. The shadows in the compartment twisted, merging into figures I recognized, people I had lost, friends I had forgotten, strangers whose names I could not recall. They whispered, pleading, warning, accusing. I realized the train had not just trapped me, it had tested me. Every corridor, every reflection, every impossible scene was designed to strip me down, to confront me with myself. I stepped toward the silver door. The air thickened. The walls pulsed like a living thing. My own reflection appeared in the mirrors along the corridor, older, terrified, desperate, screaming silently. My heart pounded. The train jolted violently, throwing me back. The conductor's voice echoed, "Decide or be claimed." Every instinct screamed to run. Every fiber of my being screamed to escape. But the door glimmered, calling me forward. I could feel the train's awareness pressing against my mind, probing, testing, hungry. I realized the horrifying truth: I could not escape by force, only by choice. I took a step, then another. The whispers grew louder, merging into a cacophony of voices from my past, present, and possible future. Names, regrets, secrets, every moment I had ever lived or failed to live surged into my consciousness. I stumbled, my vision blurring, my chest heaving. And then a whisper, soft and singular, cut through the chaos. Accept or be part of the tracks forever. I froze. The train pulsed beneath me like a living heartbeat, the corridors stretching and twisting in impossible ways. Outside the windows, I glimpsed landscapes I had never imagined, cities burning slowly, oceans flowing into the sky, skies swirling in colors I couldn't name. The train was everything, and I was nothing without its mercy. I took a deep breath and stepped forward. The door opened fully, light flooded in, golden and warm, yet strangely unnatural. I hesitated, heart hammering, torn between fear and the faintest hope. The conductor's presence loomed behind me.
Blurred, patient, knowing. "Choose wisely," he whispered, voice threading through my thoughts. "Some doors close once, forever." I crossed the threshold. I stepped through the silver door, my breath shallow, heart hammering like a drum in a storm. Light engulfed me, warm yet unreal, pressing against my chest as if it were alive. For a moment, the endless corridors, the shadows, the faces from the past, they all vanished. Silence settled, heavy and absolute. I blinked. I was standing on a platform. It looked normal. Too normal. The walls, the floor, even the air smelled of ordinary life, of wood polish and faint coffee, like a train station I had passed countless times as a child. Relief surged, but it was immediately tempered by unease. Something was off. The shadows weren't gone. They lingered in the corners of my vision, stretching, twisting, waiting. The conductor appeared, as he always did, at the edge of the platform. His face blurred, but his eyes glimmered with the same hollow, endless knowledge. He spoke softly, almost kindly. Freedom is a word humans cling to, but every choice leaves a mark. Some marks last forever. I looked around, desperate to understand. The platform was empty, except for a single train standing silently on the tracks. Its number glimmered faintly, 013. The doors slid open, and I glimpsed inside. Empty seats, corridors folding into themselves, shadows crawling along the walls. I realized, with a cold dread, that this was the same train, the one I had just left, or thought I had left. A whisper reached my ears, coming from everywhere at once. You may leave, but you can never forget. You may forget, but you can never truly leave. I stumbled forward, instinct screaming at me to run, to escape, but my legs felt leaden. My mind replayed every corridor, every reflection, every face I had seen, the lost passengers, my future self, the photograph, the whispers, the impossible landscapes. The train had changed me. My choices had been tested, my fears confronted, my past and future revealed. And now, the platform was a liminal space, a threshold between what I had endured and what awaited me. I turned to the conductor. Am I free? I asked, voice trembling. He tilted his head, a faint, unsettling smile spreading across his blurred features. Freedom is not given. It is realized. And sometimes it is a journey, not a destination. The ground beneath me shivered. The platform stretched endlessly. The train's doors creaked, and a chill wind blew, carrying whispers of every soul it had collected. I stepped back, realizing the terrible truth that no matter what I chose, the train would always exist. Somewhere, somehow, it was always moving, waiting for its next passenger, collecting moments, memories, and regrets. I took a deep breath. The golden light of the door behind me flickered. The shadows at the corners of my vision thinned, then coalesced, forming faces familiar yet strange. My heart pounded. The conductor spoke one final time. Some leave the train. Some ride forever. And some become the train. The choice was mine. Step forward into the unknown, or step back into the golden light that promised relief but carried the weight of memory. My pulse thundered. Time itself seemed to hold its breath. I stepped forward. The train doors closed behind me with a metallic groan. The platform, the light, the ordinary world, it all vanished. The corridors stretched endlessly. Shadows crawled along the walls. Faces stared silently from every reflection. And in the center of it all, the faint pulse of a train's heartbeat, steady, eternal, alive. Somewhere far away, a whistle blew, high, piercing, impossibly loud. Train number 013 moved forward with me, and every choice I had ever made into eternity. And I knew with absolute certainty that the journey would never end.